All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep, deep into the world of human
Ooh,
consciousness
exciting.
with David R. Hawkins's Power versus Force.
Yeah.
This book, it was published back in 1995,
Okay.
and it just takes this like deep dive into all these like invisible forces that
Yeah.
shape our behavior and even reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it uses kinesiology to do it.
That's right. And
Yeah.
it's not the kinesiology that you might be thinking of
Yeah.
if you've ever been to physical therapy.
Right.
Hawkins is really taking the work of Dr. John Diamond,
Okay.
who pioneered behavioral kinesiology
Okay.
and takes that to a whole new level.
Okay.
So Diamond, back in the late 1970s,
Hmm.
discovered that our muscles actually react
Oh.
differently to
Yeah.
positive and negative stimuli.
It's like our bodies have a built-in lie detector test.
Yeah, it kind of is.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
In his book, Your Body Doesn't Lie, Diamond even describes this muscle test where like a simple smile can actually strengthen your muscles, but
Right.
then a negative thought can weaken them.
Yeah, so it's like your body's reflecting
Yeah.
your inner state.
Okay.
And that's exactly where Hawkins kind of picks up this idea.
Mm-hmm.
He takes that concept of muscle testing
Okay.
and he uses it to create this whole map of consciousness
Oh, wow.
with calibrated energy levels for different emotional states.
So it's like he's assigned a number to like every human experience.
Exactly.
I mean, he's got shame down at 20, guilt at 30, fear at 100,
Yeah.
anger at 150, pride at 175, courage at 200, and then love way up at 500.
And it keeps going.
It was down 1,000. It goes all the way to enlightenment.
1,000, that is huge. I mean, those are some seriously high vibes.
Yeah.
But before we get lost in the clouds here,
Right.
let's come back down to earth for a second.
Yeah.
How does this muscle testing even work?
Okay. So,
I mean, is it like as simple as like somebody pressing on your arm and asking a question?
well, it is a two-person test. Okay.
One person holds their arm out straight
Mm-hmm.
and the other person applies gentle pressure to it
Okay.
while asking a question or presenting like a stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
And the arm either stays strong,
Okay.
which suggests like a positive response,
Okay.
or it goes weak, suggesting a negative response.
So Hawkins is basically saying he can like measure the energy of anything.
Well, he said,
Like, I don't know, from an emotion to a historical event,
yeah, pretty much.
just by using this muscle test.
That's the core of his research.
Yeah.
He claims to have tested countless subjects and topics
Okay.
to create this map of human consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And he applies it to everything,
Wow.
from personal relationships to historic events.
I mean, it's a huge claim for sure.
It is.
But I mean, isn't that what makes this book so intriguing?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, it pushes us to think outside the box a little bit and consider that maybe there's more to human behavior than meets the eye.
Absolutely. It challenges the traditional ways we view things,
Right.
opens up a whole new perspective on
Yeah.
how energy and consciousness
Yeah.
might be shaping our world.
All right. Well, speaking of unseen forces,
Yeah.
let's talk about Hawkins' idea of these attractor patterns.
Okay.
He uses this image of the Lorenz butterfly. It's like those chaotic but predictable curves
Right?
to illustrate how similar patterns like emerge
Right.
from seemingly random data
Mhm.
in human behavior.
Right.
And he connects that to Rupert Sheldrake's work
Oh, yeah?
on morphic fields.
I love that connection.
So wait, are you saying that we're all connected by these invisible energy fields
Oh, that's what they're proposing.
that shape our reality?
Mhm.
I mean, that's kind of trippy, right?
It does make you think, yeah.
Yeah.
And these attractor patterns can be either high or low energy. Just like those emotions on Hawkins scale,
Right.
high energy patterns
Mm-hmm.
are associated with power,
Mm-hmm.
which is life-affirming. While low energy patterns are linked to force,
Mm-hmm.
which seeks to control and exploit.
Okay, so let's break down this whole like power versus force thing.
Right.
What are some real world examples that Hawkins uses to illustrate this difference?
He points to historical figures
Okay.
like Mahatma Gandhi,
Mm-hmm.
whose nonviolent movement successfully challenged the British Empire.
Right.
He suggests that Gandhi's approach,
Mm-hmm.
which calibrated at 700,
Wow.
was successful because it was aligned with a higher power,
Okay.
one that resonated with those universal principles
Mm-hmm.
of truth and justice.
Okay.
The British Empire, despite its military might,
Yeah.
calibrated at a much lower level, 175.
So So Gandhi, with his peaceful protests,
Yeah,
actually had more power
that's what Hawkins is arguing.
than the entire British Empire, with all of its guns and soldiers.
Right. And he also points to the American Revolution
Okay.
as another example. He says it succeeded because it was rooted in powerful principles like freedom and human rights.
And he calibrated the American Revolution at 700 as well.
That's right.
It seems like understanding these energy levels and aligning ourselves with those higher attractor patterns could be the key to like living a more fulfilling and impactful life.
It's a compelling idea for sure.
It is.
But remember,
Yeah.
Hawkins doesn't shy away from the darker side of human nature either.
Right.
He dives deep into those low energy emotions like shame, guilt, and fear,
Right.
and highlights how they can hold us back,
Yeah.
both individually and collectively.
And that's where his concept of this critical point analysis comes in, right? He uses kinesiology to like pinpoint those crucial turning points where like a small change can trigger like a massive shift in a system.
Right, like a domino effect.
Yeah.
And he uses the example of Thomas Edison testing over 1,600 substances
Wow.
before finding the right filament for the light bulb.
So it's not just about brute force effort then. It's about finding that most effective path forward.
Finding the right approach, yeah.
So how can our listeners apply this kind of critical point analysis in their own lives?
It starts with awareness by understanding the power of these attractor patterns.
Okay.
And recognizing the energy levels associated with the various emotions and behaviors.
Yeah.
We can start making more conscious choices.
So it's not about just going with the flow.
Right.
But actively shaping our realities by aligning with those high energy attractor patterns.
Exactly.
But how do we even know if we're on the right track?
That's a great question. And that's where Hawkins suggests that we can use kinesiology, not just for self-awareness, but also for decision-making and problem-solving.
Wait, so we can use muscle testing to make better choices in our lives?
That's the idea.
Give me an example.
Okay, so imagine you're facing a tough decision, like whether to accept a new job offer or stay in your current role.
Okay.
You could use muscle testing to evaluate your options by focusing on each possibility and noticing how your body reacts.
Okay.
Does your arm stay strong, suggesting a good fit? Or does it weaken, indicating a potential mismatch?
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
It's like having this like internal compass guiding us towards the choices that are truly aligned with our highest good.
Exactly.
I love that. But I gotta say, I'm a little skeptical.
Sure.
Is there like any scientific evidence to support Hawkins's claims?
Well, that's where things get a little bit complicated.
Okay.
Hawkins' work has been both praised and criticized. Some people point to their own transformative experiences using his techniques, while others argue that there's a lack of rigorous scientific validation.
So we're venturing into like that territory where science and spirituality intersect?
Yeah, I think so.
Which always sparks debate.
Yeah.
And I think, as with any approach that challenges conventional thinking,
Right.
it's crucial to approach Hawkins' work with an open mind
Absolutely.
and a healthy dose of critical thinking.
For sure.
Right. It's always good to take things with a grain of salt and do our own research before jumping to conclusions. But even setting aside the scientific debate for a moment, there's something undeniably compelling about Hawkins' message.
I agree.
It resonates with this like deep human longing for a more meaningful and purposeful life.
Totally. It's that desire to be more than just passive bystanders, but active creators of a reality aligned with our deepest values and aspirations.
So let's delve deeper into Hawkins' exploration of those specific energy levels and the human experiences that are associated with each.
Right.
He's laid out this fascinating map of consciousness that outlines the various stages of human development.
Absolutely.
And he starts with those lower levels of consciousness, like shame, guilt, apathy, which are characterized by feelings of powerlessness and often result in these destructive behaviors.
Absolutely.
I mean, he paints a pretty bleak picture of these lower levels.
That does, yeah.
I mean, he says shame brings a desire for elimination.
Right.
And guilt is marked by blame and self-punishment.
Yeah. It's not a very fun way to live.
It doesn't sound fun at all.
No.
And Hawkins argues that a lot of societal problems like crime and addiction stem from people operating from these lower levels of consciousness.
That's right.
So to create a more positive and harmonious world, we need to raise the overall level of consciousness.
That's the idea.
Okay, so there's hope for humanity.
Yeah.
But how do we move up this ladder of consciousness?
Okay.
What are the key transitions as we evolve?
So as individuals start to move out of those lower levels, they often transition into fear.
Okay.
And while it's still a low energy state, it provides enough motivation to take action.
Right. Because when we're afraid, we're at least driven to do something to protect ourselves, even if it's not always the most constructive approach.
Right. Yeah.
And as individuals gain more confidence and courage, they may transition into anger.
Right.
Now, anger can be destructive.
Yes.
But Hawkins points out it can also be a powerful motivator.
That's right.
For positive change. Interesting. So it's not about getting rid of anger.
No.
But channeling it constructively.
Yeah, using it as fuel.
And as individuals learn to master their anger and assert their needs in a healthy way, they might transition into pride.
That's the next level. Yep.
Pride it's a tricky one.
It is tricky, yeah.
It can be both positive and negative.
Absolutely.
What does Hawkins say about it?
Well, Hawkins notes that pride can provide a sense of accomplishment and self-worth.
Okay.
But it can also lead to arrogance and a sense of superiority.
Right.
So it's still considered a lower energy level.
Right.
Calibrating at 175.
So it's like a stepping stone, not a final destination.
Exactly. And from pride, individuals may transition into courage, which marks a significant shift towards positive energy and empowerment.
So this is where things start to get really good.
That's right. This level calibrates at 200. Okay. At the level of courage, people are willing to face their fears, take risks, and stand up for what they believe in.
Okay.
They're no longer driven by fear or the need to prove themselves.
Okay.
They're acting from a place of inner strength and conviction.
And that leads us to the next big milestone, love.
Yes, love. And Hawkins really emphasizes here that this isn't the sentimental or romantic love that we often see in movies or songs. He's talking about an unconditional love that encompasses everything and transcends the ego.
Okay, and this love level calibrates at a whopping 500.
That's right.
I mean, it seems like a whole different world.
It really is.
Compared to those lower levels.
Yeah, and Hawkins believes that this level of love is where true healing and transformation can happen for both individuals and the collective.
So that's what we should all be aiming for.
It's a worthy goal.
To embody this unconditional love in everything we do.
Absolutely. Hawkins suggests that by cultivating this love, we tap into our true power.
Okay.
And create a more harmonious and fulfilling world.
Well said, but the journey doesn't end there.
It doesn't.
Right? Hawkins describes even higher levels of consciousness, including joy, peace, and enlightenment.
That's right.
Yes, and these levels represent a profound shift in awareness.
Absolutely.
And a transcendence of the ego's limitations.
Yeah, people operating at these levels experience a deep connection with all life and a profound sense of inner peace.
And these are the levels where those spiritual giants like Buddha and Jesus resided.
That's what Hawkins proposes.
And he places enlightenment at the very top, calibrating it between 700 and 1,000.
That's right.
Wow, 1,000.
Yeah.
It's hard to even imagine what that level of consciousness would feel like.
It stretches our imagination, but it's inspiring to know that such awareness is possible.
It gives us something to aspire to.
It definitely.
Even if it's just a glimpse of that transcendent realm.
For sure.
And maybe by understanding the path of consciousness and what guides its evolution, we can create conditions that allow those higher levels to emerge more fully within ourselves and society.
Yeah, I think that's a goal worth striving for.
It certainly is. Okay, so we're talking about this mind-bending idea that consciousness, like, shapes reality, if that's true. Does that mean there's no such thing as objective truth?
That's a great question.
Is everything just a matter of perspective?
Well, Hawkins tackles this question head-on in the book.
Okay.
He says that while our perceptions definitely influence our experience of reality, there's also this underlying field of consciousness that connects us all.
Okay.
He calls it the database of consciousness.
Database of consciousness.
And he believes it holds like the entirety of human knowledge and experience.
So it's like a giant cosmic library where all the answers are stored.
I like that analogy.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Hawkins believes that we can access this database through intuition, inspiration, even those aha moments that seem to come out of nowhere.
Flashes of insight.
like when you just know something's true, even though you have no like logical reason to.
Yeah, you have that gut feeling.
That's happened to me before. So maybe I was tapping into this database of consciousness.
That's the idea.
Okay, I like it. I like it.
And this concept actually aligns with what Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, which is basically this reservoir of shared archetypes and symbols that influence human behavior.
Okay, so that makes sense. But if there's this universal database that we can all access, why do our experiences of reality differ so much?
Well, that's a great question. And why all the conflict and confusion? Hawkins explains that our level of consciousness acts as a filter, shaping how we perceive and interpret information from the database. It's like we're all wearing different colored glasses. We're looking at the same world, but the colors appear differently depending on our lenses.
So someone who's like stuck in a low level of consciousness, like fear or anger, is going to have a completely different experience of reality than someone who's aligned with like love or joy.
That's right. And that's why raising both individual and collective consciousness is so important. It's not just about personal growth. It's about creating a more peaceful and harmonious world.
So our inner world shapes our outer world.
Yeah, it all comes back to that.
It all circles back to that. I love that. But how do we actually put this into practice? In real life?
Hawkins gets really practical in the book. He discusses how these principles apply to everything: politics, healthcare, business, even spirituality. And he argues that true power comes from those higher levels of consciousness, ones that align with integrity, compassion, and a genuine desire to serve the greater good. Force, on the other hand, stems from those lower levels, the ones driven by fear, greed, and a thirst for control.
So a political leader who's motivated by love and compassion is going to have a completely different impact than one driven by ego and a lust for power.
Absolutely. And Hawkins uses Mahatma Gandhi as a prime example. He compares Gandhi's nonviolent movement, which calibrated at a very high level, to the British Empire, which calibrated much lower.
And Gandhi, with no army or weapons, ultimately challenged this huge, mighty British Empire. I mean, how did he do that?
Well, Hawkins argues that Gandhi's power stemmed from his alignment with those universal principles of truth and justice. And those ideas resonated with people on a deep level. And shifted public opinion in his favor. It wasn't about brute force. It was about tapping into a higher power.
I love that. He also talks about how these principles apply to the business world too, right?
He does. He points to Sam Walton, founder of Walmart, as an example of how those high energy attractor patterns can lead to massive success. He says it's not just about having a great product or service. It's about creating a company culture aligned with positive values.
And Walton was famous for taking care of his employees and customers.
Exactly.
It really makes you think about those companies that put profits before people.
Yeah, for sure.
What kind of energy are they putting out there, and will it really lead to long-term success?
That's a great question. And one we should all consider as consumers. Because our choices matter by supporting businesses that reflect our values. We can help shift the balance towards those higher energy attractor patterns.
So we're not just passive consumers. We're active participants in shaping the market. And by extension, the world.
That's right.
Wow, that's powerful. Okay, we've talked about politics and business and even spirituality, but what about our personal lives? How can we use these principles to build better relationships? Improve our health and live a more joyful and meaningful life?
Hawkins says it starts with taking ownership of our own consciousness. We have to become aware of the thoughts, beliefs, and emotional patterns that are driving our behavior, and then consciously choose to align with those higher frequencies.
Which is easier said than done.
It is, yeah.
Especially when we're dealing with these like deeply ingrained patterns that we might not even realize are there.
Right. It's definitely a journey, not a quick fix. But Hawkins provides tools that can help, like mindfulness practices, affirmations, and even kinesiology to uncover and release limiting beliefs.
So it's about cultivating self-awareness, making wise choices in our thoughts and actions, and creating a life that reflects our highest values and aspirations.
That's the core of it. And as we raise our own level of consciousness, we naturally contribute to the elevation of the collective.
So like a ripple effect spreading outwards from the center.
I love that imagery.
Yeah.
It gives me hope that even amidst all the chaos and darkness that we see in the world, like a brighter future is possible.
Absolutely. And it begins with each of us choosing to be the change we want to see.
Well said. Okay, let's shift gears a bit here and explore some of the specific human experiences associated with each level on Hawkins' map of consciousness. I'm particularly curious about those lower levels that he describes, like shame and guilt.
Yeah, those are heavy ones for sure.
Yeah.
Hawkins describes shame as the lowest level, calibrating at just 20.
Wow.
It's a state of utter powerlessness, often coupled with a desire to simply disappear.
Yeah.
Guilt at 30 is a bit higher, but it's still characterized by self-blame and tendency towards self-punishment.
It sounds incredibly painful to be trapped in those states.
Yeah.
It is, and Hawkins suggests that many societal issues like violence and addiction stem from individuals and even entire groups operating from these low levels of awareness.
So if we want to create a more positive and harmonious world, raising the overall level of consciousness is essential.
That's right.
But how do we move out of those lower levels and into a higher state of being? What's the first step?
Often the transition from shame and guilt leads to fear, which, while still a low energy state, calibrating at 100, at least provides a spark of motivation. When we're afraid, we're driven to take action, even if it's not always the most constructive action.
Right, because even if it's just about self-preservation, fear can like push us to do something to change our situation.
Exactly. And from there, as individuals start to develop more confidence and find their voice, they may move into anger, which calibrates at 150. Now, anger can be a destructive force if it's not controlled. But it can also be a powerful motivator for positive change.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not about getting rid of anger altogether, but learning to channel it in a way that creates positive change.
That's the key. And as individuals learn to manage their anger and assert their needs in a healthy way, they often transition into pride, which calibrates at 175.
And pride seems like a double-edged sword.
It is, yeah.
It can be both positive and negative, right?
Absolutely.
So what does Hawkins say about it?
Well, Hawkins says that pride can provide a sense of accomplishment and self-worth, but it can also easily morph into arrogance and a sense of superiority.
So it's a step in the right direction, but not the ultimate goal.
Exactly. It's like a stepping stone on the path to higher levels of consciousness. From pride, individuals can move into courage, which calibrates at 200, marking a significant shift toward positive energy and true empowerment.
So this is where things start to get really good.
That's right.
Tell me more about courage.
At the level of courage, people are willing to face their fears, take risks, and stand up for what they believe in. They're no longer driven by fear or the need to prove themselves. They're acting from a place of inner strength and conviction.
That sounds incredibly liberating.
It is.
And it seems like courage is an essential ingredient for creating positive change in the world.
It absolutely is. Without courage, it's difficult to break free from those limiting beliefs and patterns that keep us stuck in those lower levels of consciousness. Courage empowers us to step outside our comfort zones, challenge the status quo, and create a better future for ourselves and others.
And courage ultimately leads us to the transformative power of love, which you mentioned earlier. Tell me more about what Hawkins means by love in this context.
Yeah, he's very clear that this isn't the sentimental or romantic love that we often see portrayed in movies or songs.
Yeah.
It's an unconditional love that goes beyond the limitation of the ego. It's a love that embraces all beings, regardless of their flaws or imperfections.
So it's like a very expansive and all-encompassing type of love.
Very much so. And Hawkins believes it's the key to true happiness and fulfillment.
Okay.
It's a state of being where we're no longer driven by fear, need, or desire.
Okay.
We're simply present in the moment, connected to a source of love is greater than ourselves.
And this love, as we mentioned earlier, calibrates at a powerful 500.
That's right.
That makes sense, given how transformative love can be. I mean, it has the power to heal old wounds, bridge divides, and inspire like incredible acts of kindness and compassion.
Absolutely.
But according to Hawkins, the journey doesn't stop at love.
It doesn't.
There are even higher levels of consciousness.
That's right.
Aren't there?
Yes, there are.
Like joy, peace, and ultimately enlightenment.
Yes.
Those are some lofty heights.
They are.
So what can you tell us about these higher levels of consciousness?
Well, they represent a profound shift in awareness and a transcendence of the ego's limitations. Individuals operating at these levels. Experience a deep sense of interconnectedness with all of life. A profound sense of peace that surpasses understanding.
Wow.
And a level of joy that's independent of external circumstances.
It's almost impossible to wrap our minds around what it would be like to experience reality from those levels.
It truly is, Hawkins suggested. These are the levels where spiritual giants like Buddha and Jesus resided, where the veil between the individual self and the universal consciousness becomes thin.
It's incredible to think that such levels of awareness are possible within the human experience.
It is. And even if we may never reach those elites ourselves, knowing they exist gives us something to aspire to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It reminds us that there's always more to discover, more to learn.
For sure.
And more to experience as we continue to evolve on our individual and collective journeys of consciousness.
Beautifully said.
All right. So we've taken this incredible journey through the lower levels of consciousness, shame, guilt, fear, anger, pride. We've even like glimpsed this transformative power of courage and this like boundless energy of love. But what about these higher realms? Joy, peace, and enlightenment. What can you tell us about them?
Well, they're really a fascinating exploration in the book. Hawkins describes joy as a state of pure bliss and serenity. It's a state where we're no longer attached to outcomes. Where we find contentment in simply being present in the moment.
So it's not about chasing those fleeting moments of happiness, but cultivating a deeper sense of inner peace and contentment.
It's a state of being, not just a passing feeling.
And peace, I imagine, is even more profound.
Yes. Peace, according to Hawkins, transcends all understanding. It's a state of complete stillness and serenity, where we're no longer disturbed by the ups and downs of life. We experience this profound connection to everything and everyone, a sense of unity with the cosmos.
That sounds almost otherworldly.
It's definitely beyond the realm of ordinary experience. And then at the pinnacle of the map of consciousness, we have enlightenment. Hawkins calibrates this level between 700 and 1,000.
1,000. It's hard to even grasp what that level of awareness would even entail.
It's a state of complete liberation from the limitations of the ego. Hawkins describes it as a merging with the divine. A state of pure awareness and unconditional love. It's the realm of spiritual masters like Buddha and Jesus, who embodied these qualities and inspired millions with their teachings.
It's both humbling and inspiring.
It is.
To think that such heights of consciousness are even possible for humans.
For sure.
It makes you wonder, like, if if these levels of consciousness are real,
Yeah.
if they exist within us as possibilities, how can we cultivate them? Can we actively work towards raising our own consciousness?
That's a great question, and Hawkins suggests that we can.
Okay.
He believes that while enlightenment may be a rare occurrence, we can all strive to live from a higher level of awareness. That begins with understanding the principles he outlines in Power versus Force, becoming aware of the energy we're putting out into the world, recognizing the power of our choices, and consciously choosing to align ourselves with those higher frequencies.
So it's not about passively hoping for a sudden awakening, but actively engaging in practices and making choices that nourish our spiritual growth.
Exactly. It's about cultivating self-awareness, practicing mindfulness, choosing our thoughts and actions wisely, and committing to a path of personal and spiritual development.
So it's like we're all on this journey, climbing this ladder of consciousness, striving to reach our fullest potential.
That's a great way to put it. And while the destination may be different for each of us, the journey itself is transformative.
You know, this deep dive into power versus force has been incredibly insightful.
It has.
It's challenged us to think differently about ourselves, our world, and the invisible forces that shape our reality.
For sure.
It's encouraged us to question our assumptions, explore new perspectives, and consider the possibility that there's so much more to life than meets the eye. And
I agree.
And perhaps most importantly, it's given us this sense of hope that a better future is even possible, both for ourselves and for humanity as a whole.
I think so.
You know, if we each commit to raising our own level of consciousness, to embodying those qualities of love, compassion, and wisdom, we can create this ripple effect that transforms our world.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure exploring these concepts with you.
Yeah, it has been great.
And I encourage our listeners to continue this journey of discovery on their own.
Yes, pick up a copy of Power versus Force.
Yeah.
Delve deeper into these fascinating ideas.
For sure.
You might be surprised at what you discover about yourself.
Absolutely.
And the incredible potential that lies within you.
That's right.
Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and keep reaching for those higher frequencies.
Beautifully said.